Welcome to NC Debrief, the show where we analyze and break down political, social, and cultural issues that affect us as Africans. I'm Tolulope Adeleru Balogun, and today we're looking at the issue of brain drain and the African continent. Now, brain drain is a situation in which large numbers of educated and very skilled people leave their own country to live and work in another one, where pay and conditions are better. There are several factors that can lead to a brain drain. The issues that lead to it can be considered in two ways: push factors of migration and the pull factors of migration. Now, the push factors include war, unemployment, insecurity, political instability, and more. Pull factors are the aspects of a country that make it attractive to people and encourage them to migrate there. To get into this issue, let me introduce my guest. I have Olushola Amusan. He is a startup coach and the CEO of Coven Works. He is also an AI specialist and equips and educates people to make smoother transitions to countries of their choice. My second guest is Dr. Dipo Awojide, the founder of BTDT Hub. Now, Dipo is a careers and personal development coach, and he also works with MSMEs. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Now, to be part of the conversation, you can join us by using the hashtag NCDebrief and let us know what your thoughts are on the issue of brain drain on the African continent. So let me get into just a few numbers because I think it's important to establish these conversations with that. Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zimbabwe, as well as Zambia, have lost more than $2 billion since 2010 from training doctors who then migrated. Annually, it is estimated that Africa loses around $2 billion through brain drain in the healthcare sector alone. So it's easy on paper to say why people leave their homelands, but let's hear it from you. Olushola, you work directly with people who are making intentional plans to relocate. What are some of the reasons you hear from people who are saying they want to leave Nigeria?
Thank you so much. You had earlier mentioned the critical forces, the push and the pull. Many of the people I work with usually want to leave Nigeria or Africa because they have found new homes and new opportunities elsewhere that promise to be better and that can offer them reward for the skills that they have. Some other people who, even though have a great career in Nigeria, are being pushed by the forces of insecurity and hyperinflation that is happening to the wealth that they've been able to gather. So you have that push and pull effect. For most millennials and those who are in their early stage careers, it's usually the pull. People, other countries providing a better enabling environment to be able to give them the reward for their skills. I'll give you an example. A web developer with the same JavaScript, HTML, and CSS knowledge would be rewarded with about 150,000 naira, which is just a little above $300 in Nigeria for a monthly salary. The same person, if they move just 6 hours, to the Netherlands, they will be earning 3,000 to 4,000 euros.
Wow.
For the same skill that they have. So that's like times 10. So every young person feels like they need to move to a place where they are valued, they have health insurance, they don't have to be concerned about insecurity and some of these other challenges. So the pull factors are very huge for the millennials. And for those who are sort of like, who consider themselves at midlife, anyone who is somewhere above 40, who still hasn't been able to figure out, how not to be broke, despite the fact that they have a great salary in maybe one of the banks or oil and gas companies, but they can't really determine what the future of their children will look like. Insecurity is on the rise, and many people who have even great careers are, facing serious challenges. Some have been attacked, accosted, robbed, and some of these issues push them to say, do I want my children to grow up in this kind of environment? And what can I do to be able to make a better choice? So these ones have a great career in Nigeria, but they've been pushed out of Nigeria to find better climes for their children and for them to be able to live a better life. It is said that, even though no direct research backs it up, it is said that you'll be literally adding 10 to 20 years to your life expectancy if you move to Europe or America because of better health conditions, considering the fact that, as at my last check, life expectancy is still somewhere between 47 and 52 in Nigeria.
All right. So, Dikwa, you've heard what Olushola has said in terms of the push factors that are pushing a lot of young Nigerians, a lot of young Africans away from their countries. And when you have this conversation about Nigeria, it's very easy to replicate across the continent. High unemployment, inflation, insecurity, limited job opportunities, difficulty with education, difficulty with healthcare. So it's whether it's a Nigerian conversation or it's a Kenyan conversation or it's a Ugandan conversation, it's one that young people across the continent are having. But can we really blame them for leaving? I know you in particular have encouraged young Nigerians to, I won't say stay, but to work on Nigeria for themselves and for the future. Do we really blame them for looking for greener pastures and better opportunities when the continent is not providing that?
Thank you very much, Tolulope. Not at all. I mean, I think it's entirely okay for young people to actually relocate abroad. In the past, I was a very strong advocate, of people staying back and trying to fix the country. But at this stage, and that was a couple of years ago, at this stage, if you look at, what is happening in Nigeria specifically, I think it's okay, to encourage people to have, an open mind and, just go out there and explore the world. And, just the opportunities are there. If you are skilled, if you have what global companies are looking for, why limit yourself, to just Nigeria? And it's also okay to go out as well and contribute. So there are lots of people who, have relocated abroad, either to Canada, to UK, to Ireland or the USA, but they have businesses in Nigeria, they have companies in Nigeria, they employ people in Nigeria, and they send money back to Nigeria. And think about the skills and the technical expertise as well. So there are lots of people who, when they go out, get this global experience, get this global exposure and education, they engage in knowledge transfer partnerships. So they actually they actually train people, who are back on board. I perfectly understand that, there are a lot more people now who want to leave Nigeria in particular because of the economic conditions, because of the insecurity in the country. And, because a lot of young people seem to basically have just lost hope about the future. If they remain in the country, they feel like, they are not going to achieve their full potential. And that is perfectly understandable. But it's just, if you decide to stay, that's entirely up to you. If you want to pack up and leave, that's also entirely up to you. But the most important thing is to add value wherever you are. So find a way to add value, to Nigeria.
All right, so Olushola, I want to pick up a thread from something Dipo said, and the question goes to the two of you. Now, many countries are going through their second or third brain drain in as many generations. And he mentioned exchange of knowledge. He mentioned the opportunity in a way for people to pick up skills abroad and maybe find a way to put them to use in their home countries. But there are a lot of people who say that beyond diaspora remittances, there's really nothing Africa gains in terms of people who leave the continent, skilled professionals who leave the continent, and then, of course, maybe pick up skills and move further on in their career. So, Shola, let me ask you first. Do you think there's any benefit at all to the home countries when these skilled professionals leave, aside from the diaspora remittances they may send home to their families for schools, for building, for these small amounts that help other people set up businesses? Anything else to gain?
Yeah, so to just answer that question, thank you very much. You see, our generation, the generation that is moving now, must learn to do more. Just like Dr. Dikwa said just now, we must learn to do more. And those remittances are not just small remittances. They account for $23 billion in 2019 alone. And that is half of all of our oil derivative for the same year. So if these remittances are strategically, organized, potentially that remittance can become a way for us to export talents and bring back money to headquarters back in Nigeria. It's also very crucial that for our generation, we pay attention to the fact that we're not migrating because of our own personal reasons. As Dr. Dikwa said, it's totally okay if people want to migrate just to be able to fulfill their potential. But there's another group of people. There's a generation of people who are migrating in order to be able to get the requisite knowledge, to be able to get the requisite skills, and more importantly, to be able to get so much economic power to headquarter back home. For example, for 10 years that I've been, in technology, 5 of which I worked in Microsoft, I always wanted to build a university of technology. And not until I moved to the United States could I actually build or set up something like that. And today I'm in the process of building a university of technology in my hometown. So every single person who has this opportunity, once they've been able to solve their own basic problems of food, clothing, and shelter, should begin to remember that patriotism is crucial, even though it's a choice, and that they need to continue to bring back foreign exchange, to bring back economic power, that we headquarter back in Nigeria, in Africa, because the responsibility of building that continent will never be on those who have colonized us, will never be on the Western world. They will continue to see Africa as a market. It's only us who see Africa as a home. And whatever we do, whoever we become, if we rise up to become the CEO of Microsoft or the CEO of Google, like you've seen Indians done now, or we end up becoming the CEO of Tesla, or we even found a company here like Calendly, and we build economic power, generate billions of dollars, we must remember that building the continent of Africa, requires those resources. And for once, we will be able to bring resources that have no strings attached to our continent and be able to do something better.
All right.
We are also creating critical partnerships for knowledge transfer, setting up artificial intelligence labs across Nigerian universities, and helping those faculty to be able to understand the value of this advanced technology if the Nigerian University Commission doesn't have the capacity to do so.
All right, Olushola, I have to interrupt you here, but I do wonder if someone is watching now, if they think that $28 billion in remittance is actually worth enough for us to be losing over 70,000 skilled professionals a year across the continent. We're going to take a break on NC Debrief. We're talking about the brain drain. And when we come back, we get into an interesting aspect of it, how we as Africans celebrate Africans abroad who've made it. Would they have made it as well if they stayed? Stay with us. So I have this question as we look at the brain drain issue in the continent. Dr. Onyema Ogbuagu, who is the principal investigator of the Pfizer BioNTech clinical trial, he's schooled in Calabar and then he moved abroad. We've seen Nigerians and many other countries celebrate young Africans who are making names for themselves abroad, whether it's in sports, politics, it's in entertainment. We saw the new president of the United States, Joe Biden, put a lot of Nigerian, I guess we would say, descended individuals in his cabinet. We claim them and we celebrate them. But many point out on social media that if many of these individuals were in Nigeria, were in their home countries, they would not have achieved what they're being celebrated for. Dipo, I'm putting this question to you. What do you think of that situation? We'll complain about the brain drain. We'll celebrate these people who have these opportunities abroad. It was just a Nigerian who was just named as the best physician in the US for 2020. But many of us realize that if they stayed in Nigeria, these opportunities to excel in their fields would probably be lacking.
Thank you very much for that question, Tolulope. The starting point of looking at that question is, looking at the opportunities back in Nigeria and also in a lot of the African countries. If there's no electricity, what can you do? No matter how smart you are, no matter how clever you are, and, Nigerians and Africans, by extension, are very clever. We are very smart. We are very resilient. But if the factories are not there, if the laboratories are not there, how are you going to come up with a vaccine? There are people who, actually build, from scratch. They use, creative ingenuity and come up with solutions, to solve our problems. But if you don't have electricity, if you don't have the conducive environment to actually achieve your full potential, then there's almost nothing you can do. And for folks who run businesses, we need loans, grants, funding. If all of those things are absent, there's almost nothing that anyone can do. People struggle, people work very hard. And if the right environment and the right conditions are not there, you're just going to keep having to work, twice as hard. And this is why, when Nigerians actually travel abroad, either to the UK, to Canada, or to the USA, a lot of them actually make it. And that is why we celebrate them. And this is why we will continue to celebrate those who have traveled abroad and who are leading or, shining superstars in their industry. Anthony Joshua, the world, UCF, whatever, the three top three, I think the top three belts is actually held by Nigerians. And in other industries as well, there are lots of Nigerians who are doing well. There are lots of Nigerians who are excelling. And this is because the right environment is there. Think about our universities, for example. If you haven't got internet, if you haven't got, decent Wi-Fi in your university, what sort of research are you going to do? So I think this is an opportunity for us to look inward and try to solve, whatever problems it is that we have, or try to make the environment conducive for young Nigerians and young Africans to thrive and prosper.
Okay, so I'm going to pick up on that. And I think, as I said earlier, numbers are important. And Olushola shared the $28 billion remittances. But let's talk about probably the sector that's hardest hit, and which is medical. And for many of us on the continent, the medical sector is important. It's important to maternal and early childhood education, to development as well. So for instance, 1 in 10 doctors working in the UK comes from Africa. This allows the UK to save on average $2.7 billion on training costs. Similarly, the US, Australia, and Canada save respectively about $846 million, $621 million, and $384 million in training costs from African physicians that they recruit. It is estimated that Africa has lost $4.6 billion in training costs for home-trained doctors recruited by these top 4 destination countries. Now, this also costs us in terms of lives, development, and more. We'd heard from government representatives about being patriotic to our countries. Olushola has even mentioned patriotism in this conversation, but it's not that easy. Olushola, what role do you think government plays in reducing the brain drain? While we recognize it's everybody's right to want to migrate and move around legally around the world, but it is costing Africa dearly. So while we can't stop it, what do we do to reduce it and to keep some of that knowledge and skilled work and professionalism on the continent?
Thank you, Tolope. The argument really is whether we truly want to keep them. I've heard the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, as well as the Minister of Information, literally say if people want to go, they should go. That kind of statement can come from people who truly care about keeping people. You see, while the medical field is mostly is because it's a thankless job. Regardless of how much anyone who is a medical doctor or a surgeon is paid, what they do is completely immeasurable. It's huge. And considering the fact that we live in a country where doctors in federal teaching hospitals can be owed money for 5 months in a row, what would you ask them to do? These are people who recognize that their human potential supersedes every geography, and that they can't keep themselves within a geography that has refused to do anything about it. My mom works in a federal teaching hospital, and not as a doctor, but I have very first-hand access to the level of decadence and the same kind of revolving chairs I sat on as a 5-year-old are still right in our department 25 years later, of course, with their backs gone. So it's crucial to know that if we want people to stay, regardless of what industry they found themselves, if we can't create the right enabling environment that will make their kids to look up to them as proud fathers and mothers, then we have no, reason to question why they must leave. We should look into our national budgets and find out how much goes to the health sector and how much of what goes to the health sector actually trickles down to the primary health care centers, to the hospitals, and also find out what efforts have we really put in place to actually bring back our doctors, to entice them with benefits and opportunities for growth. Okay. What investments have we put in our research centers to ensure that, as Dr. Dipo said, there's electricity to make sure that our centrifuge machines and our culture, our microbial cultures don't just get destroyed because of power interruptions? What efforts have we put in place for medical research?
So
how much are we investing in professors? All of these come together to tell us we are not serious about
Olushola, let me interject there, because you reeled out several questions, and I think what happens with a lot of these conversations is we have more questions than answers. I'm going to take a quick break, and I hope when we come back, maybe Dr. Dipo has an answer for us in regards to what the role the government needs to play in this. This is NC Debrief. Do stay with us. This is NC Debrief, and we're looking at the brain drain on the continent. Now, right before we went for that break, Olushola Amusan was talking about what needs to be done. But in talking about it, he raised a lot of questions. Dikpo, do you have any answers to some of these questions? Because when we talk about the role of government, many people would be surprised that there's actually an African Union framework on this migration that's meant to run from 2018 to 2027 that makes several recommendations on how to actually curb the brain drain across the continent. So it's recognized that this is a continental issue. So what are the solutions?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think, first of all, I think Olushola has done a fantastic job, explaining, what the problems are and why we are where we are. If the, government officials don't live by example, we are never going to make any progress. So lecturers and medical doctors and nurses, are old, salaries. They don't get paid. Some of them don't get paid frequently. They have to go on strike to actually get what they deserve. But politicians, senators, House of Representative members, they never have to go on strike because they are always paid. All the benefits of office, they enjoy everything. So this is actually a political issue, and with visionary leadership. I mean, if you have the president of Nigeria, for example, is currently in the UK, receiving medical treatment, or he's come for a medical checkup, and there are doctors who are back home who are on strike, it's just inappropriate, and things like this should not be happening. So leaders, political leaders, they need to show, they need to lead by example and show that they want to curb, this issue of brain drain. Because if they don't lead by examples, if politicians continue to get all the benefit of office, and medical doctors and other skilled professionals, have to go on strike before they get what they deserve, before they can feed their family. I mean, if you don't pay a doctor for 3-4 months, how do you think he's going to survive? And, people who say patriotism, of course, I perfectly understand, the importance of patriotism, but people have to feed, people have to take care of their families. And when they see other, politicians driving big cars in Abuja and enjoying themselves, and we talk about patriotism to doctors and to lecturers, it's not going to work. So we need politicians to start leading by example. If you've allocated £5 billion or $5 billion for a medical project, across the country, make sure that those healthcare facilities are actually built. Make sure that the schools are actually built. Make sure that the lecturers, academics, nurses and doctors actually get paid.
Yeah. And
if you don't do that, people are going to keep living. Why? Because they are skilled, and because these other countries, they need them. The UK, the US, Saudi Arabia, UAE, they are looking for skilled professionals, and they are going to pay them. They're going to make the visa process easy, and they're going to grab your people. So you need to provide the excellent working conditions back home so that your people can stay, so that your skilled professionals can actually stay and help solve the problems. All
right, so I just need a yes or no answer from both of you. No explanation, just yes or no. Olushola, do you think that Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, Ghana, Uganda, Botswana, Zimbabwe, all these countries, are we ready to do the hard work to make the conditions better so we're not losing the number of skilled professionals we do every year? Olushola, yes or no?
No.
No explainer. Dikpo, do you think that the African continent is ready to put in the hard work for this?
No, I mean, I can't see.
I said no explainer. You want to explain? It's all right. No explainer. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Time is never on our side, but there is no way we can exhaust discussion surrounding the brain drain. It's something that has been identified in our parents' generation and continues till now, and will probably be continuing for a few more generations. But we do hope we provided some food for thought. Thank you to my guest, Dr. Dikpo Awojide, the founder of BTDT Hub and a careers and personal development coach, as well as Olushola Amusan, startup coach, AI specialist, and the CEO of Coven Works. Thank you for joining me on NC Debrief.
Thank you.
So I want to leave us with this food for thought. Over 70,000 skilled professionals immigrate from Africa every year. Currently, Africa is the world's youngest continent, but the continent is only able to create 3 million jobs annually. what happens to everybody else? Why won't they look for green pastures? And are we ready to be committed and intentional about keeping skilled Africans on the continent? Let us know what you think. Use the hashtag NCDebrief and we'll be back once again. I'm Tolu Lokwe at Deleru Balugu.